Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harrison. Each week, I'm joined by Husky Harry, huggable homos who love film, to talk about something near and dear to our heart, of course, that being movies. We love them. That's why the word is even in our title. We love us some bears as well, so you're starting to see how the process came to be for our title. But in any event, awkwardly stalling, we've got a fun show for you guys this week. But before we do any of that fun stuff, let me introduce you to my wonderful co-host Jim Pugliafco is here. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, and thanks for listening or watching the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis is here with us as well. Welcome, Will.
Hey there, cool kids. For those of you joining us live, you picked the right place to be tonight. And for those listening on digital tape delay, you picked the right place. My dogs are also happy that we're all here. Yay.
Oh, goodness. Well, we're glad to have the three doggies with us as well. What is it? Raina, Penny,
Huck,
and
one more.
Ginger.
I've failed the Movie Bears podcast like pet name quiz. So sorry, BuzzFeed, if you were putting that together.
They just get excited every Monday. The truck arrives with my HelloFresh shipment, and that's what I'm sure. I've got food sitting out right now for me. So
stop the presses. Let's eat.
Yeah.
Will's cooking.
We're also very excited to welcome an incredibly special guest back to the Movie Bears podcast. We've had him on a couple times before, and our excitement knows no bounds. He is here to talk to us about his latest film, BearCity 3. Please welcome writer-director Doug Langway. Doug, welcome back. Man, it's been a while.
Thank you very much. It's been a while. About 4 years between the last one and this one. So,
Oh my gosh.
Right?
It's been that long. That's crazy.
It was 2 between the first one and the second one, and then, we need a little time to make the last one bang out nice. So.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you back to talk about the film. We're going to get into that in just a second. Want to give a quick shout out to those folks who are joining us live in the live chat right now. So Steve and Nuriko, welcome. Just a quick reminder, we're going to be giving away a copy of BearCity 3. So if you want to be entered into that drawing, it's DVD, Blu-ray, definitely say hi in the live chat. Anyone who comments in the live chat throughout the course of the show tonight will be entered into that drawing, and then we will draw names on the next episode. We'll announce the winner. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to get your name and your comment in. We'll be replying to your comments and questions here on the show. So if you do have a question, definitely feel free to ask it in the chat. We may not get to everybody, but if it's juicy, if it catches our eye as we're doing our thing, we can definitely pick it up.
If it puts Doug on the spot, that'd be perfect.
That's perfect. Looking forward. Folks coming on board for that one.
Hard hitting,
hard hitting news.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead then, I think, and just get into it. Doug, do you mind if we kind of spend some quality time with you talking about the film?
Let's do it. I would love it.
All right. Jim and Will, are you guys ready to go?
We're ready.
Born ready.
Talk about this movie.
All right. Well, this is the part where I leave some awkward silence so Jim can insert the trailer for BearCity 3 later on in post-production. But here we go. Our discussion of BearCity 3 with Doug Langway. All right, so Doug, oh my gosh, you've just completed this third movie. You've got it out. People can access it now. I gotta ask, are you feeling satisfied with how this has all turned out? Are you done, or is there more story to tell? Like, tell us what's going on.
What's going on? Well, it's been a long process. It's been a decade and a half long journey to get here. So, and this last one was about four some odd years of my life, and my producers, Jay, Barry, and Joe, our lives, all of our lives together to put this together. I'm really proud of it. People dig it. I think it came out really well. We definitely we definitely were all in sync. The movie just kept getting better and better, which is why it's time to leave at the height of the party. So I am kind of happy that we nailed it, and I think I'm very satisfied. You guys are great in it.
Yeah, I gotta say it was awesome to see our small little cameo in the movie. Of course, you know, because we filmed it, we knew it was going to be part of it somewhere. We just didn't really know the context, and so
we had no idea. We had no idea. I was actually kind of anxious about it. Like, oh my God, how are they going to use us? Because it's like, you know, it's like, I don't know.
I happen to be an amazing editor, bro. Like, deal. We just put it together, and
it's worse. It's worse than letting somebody you don't know like borrow your car. Like, you just like record this thing, send it in, and they're gonna do whatever they want with it. And to be honest, we heard about it long before we saw it. We just saw it this last week.
Oh,
so
true.
So like other people who have been lucky enough to go to some of the fun screenings that you had around the country and around the world, I guess, would come, message us like, "Oh, saw you guys in the movie. It was funny, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, well, that's a relief, but I really want to see it.
I have so many text messages from just bears around the country just saying, "Oh, I just saw you. Oh, I just saw you." And it's just like, yeah, wait to see you. And even watching it this week and knowing the scene was in there, I gotta say, it was like when it did pop up on the screen, it still kind of took me by surprise. Just kind of like, oh, that's me. That's weird.
Yeah.
I made it work for the widescreen.
Yeah.
Was that a fat joke, Doug?
No, come on, man.
There'll be plenty of those.
Well, it was so funny because like I think I heard my voice before like I saw the video that like they're looking at, right? So I hear the voice, and I'm like, that voice sounds familiar. Is that oh my God, it's us. Like there it is. So thank you for inviting us to play a small part in the film, Doug. We appreciate that.
And we got Daniel to do it too. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And you didn't exactly know, so you were like, there were two people we were going for. I ended up getting both of them in the movie, but in different places. So it was kind of like
we got Bill. Bill's in there, a good friend of ours. Bill
we love
Zanowitz
Bill.
is in there. Yeah.
And he was in there, and I didn't even know he was at the New York screening, or I would have made him stand up because he was wonderful in it. And so many people were wonderful in it. It was a terrific experience. A lot of work though, but terrific experience.
I can't even imagine.
From beginning to end, yeah, it's an experience. And shooting on 6K was a whole 2 cameras. 6K was a whole nother thing. But we figured if we're gonna go out, let's go out with a bang. So we're like, let's shoot with these crazy cameras. Let's shoot kids. Let's shoot animals. Like, let's do the things we're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we totally just took it all on at the same time.
Yeah, this is a lot I want to talk about, but of course I don't want to spoil the movie for everybody. But when you say animals, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a frightening experience, but it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was definitely like, okay, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I might be regretting this, but obviously, I think we said like in the Indiegogo campaign, which we couldn't have done this film without the Indiegogo folks and everybody helping us out. That if we got to a certain thing, we'd have a live bearing. So I don't think I think people know, but when you did, it's kind of like, wow, okay,
yeah.
It's so much scarier.
It was a surprise. They're
feeding it raw steaks, and you're like, oh my God, I look like a big raw steak.
Yeah.
Let's not run out of the raw steak, shall we?
Yeah, that bear around with all that like juicy man meat around. I don't know how that was going to work.
Well, we had Greg Gunter there who plays Michael, and so got a little threatened, and so I was like, okay, this is going to be trouble. Because he's like taking off his hoops. Greg's like, I'm ready. No. Trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Brad, did you want to kick it off with
the hard hitting
question? I already did. I was typing you in chat. I'm like, Jim, it's all you, boo.
Oh, me?
So go for it.
Oh, my God.
I know you have a question about the shooting locations, so go for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the woods, right? I mean, with the second film being in P-Town, right? Was an awesome location. And I remember talking to you around that time, like, where are you going to go next? We might do it on a cruise. We might. Yeah. I remember you talking about that. And then I heard that you were, setting it at the Woods, which we've never been there. I know we're not really East Coast guys, so we don't get out there that much. But I know with you being there, you probably knew a lot more about that place. But it looks awesome. I'd like to go. How did that come to be? Like, how did it come?
Yeah, gay camping in general, or bear camping has been something that I've been doing for like 2 decades. Like, this isn't like new. That place is about 10 years old, but there was another place that we were going originally. And for me, I had actually written a story about the first place, and it just I didn't really get the legs on it that I wanted at the time. I wasn't ready to shoot, and I didn't know what I was shooting. But I've always been immersed in that camping experience. And I guess the thing was that that's not just necessarily an East Coast thing, but it is kind of all around the country. Not maybe so much in the West,
right? But
they definitely have the bear in southern America and in Texas and in Florida. And so I knew it was something for me. The first film was about trying to fall in love, and so that was in New York. It was gritty. It was trying to find love. The second one was marriage, so I felt like that needed to have a more playful, more fairy tale-ish, wedding-ish kind of feeling. And then this one was like about family, and so I felt like we need to get raw and get back into like a raw feeling, like take it down from all the hoopla. And of course, there's still fun, crazy stuff in it, but it's just more people who want to live out their day to day. The thing about that camping experience is that people get a place and they stay there all through the whole summer. They come up every weekend, and so it just becomes a lifestyle more than just an event. So and I like that about it. And then I was thinking about doing it on a gay cruise, and actually my friend Bo Shuff and I were talking with the guys from Carnival, and then we started thinking about it, and I'm like, we're organized, but we're not that organized. And it happens on a set, and we're like, we'd have to fly in Kathy to Jimmy in the last minute. You can't just fly. Like, she'd have to fly her to a pad or something like that. Like, we'd be in the control of kind of the bigger picture, which is the huge cruise ship. So I was like, I was like, this is not. It's not about the location this time. It's about what the story is, and so location just needs to complement it. And I thought that this was a great thing. And I met on the cruise. I met the owner, John Adam, who owns the campground, and Pat. And I was like, I used to go to another place. I've been coming to your place since you started. I'd love to do this movie. And they were like, hell yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I'd imagine that's kind of a win-win situation.
Yeah.
For the film and for the campground. You had mentioned the logistics issues that you would have if you'd done something like on a cruise, right? Schedule-wise. I mean, because you only have so many days at sea, and you got to get it all shot. But a little more flexibility at the campground. But then I can imagine this movie will draw people to the campground as well.
Of course, it already has. Like, from the last one to this time. I mean, that campground was a force to be reckoned with anyway. But they've expanded and then filled that out because of probably because of the movie. And as it now releases, the next year should be pretty crazy. And I'm trying to tell them to focus on their Bear Week because it's kind of after Bear Week in P-Town. So what we found is that a lot of European people came to P-Town because of the movie. So they spend like a month, because that's the way they do it. They could move that right into the Woods campground and go to P-Town and go to the Woods and then go wherever. So it would be good for them. But regardless, I think it's going to get all the gay campgrounds are all going to see a bump from it because it does feel like something you want to do. And most of that's pretty true. Most of my stuff is pretty true in general. I just changed the names to protect the innocent, but no one's innocent.
Not in this community.
Yeah. Brad and I just coincidentally have started doing some camping locally, but we haven't gone to like a gay campground yet, but that's the next step. So if you're ever out here, Doug, and you want to go camping like up in the mountain, you let us know. We'll bring you.
Yeah, no, I'm used to like the camping with a little C, you know what I mean? It's like a disco bathroom. That's if I have to have it, but no.
That's what's so delightful.
Nature trail.
Glitter, disco ball,
We'll put a disco ball up for you.
Poppers.
Yeah.
We used to have we had this campground that's actually fairly close to where I live here in Texas. So it was nice because I'm also little sea camper. Like, I'm not the type that's like, I'm not going to go out there and have the tent and sleep underneath the stars, but I'll go out there for the day or so and just hang out with everyone. That's a lot of fun. The next question I've got for you is sort of a look at some of the production stuff that went into this film. I think for me, a lot of the excitement and the buildup for the BearCity franchise and property comes from its community sourcing, which includes like the crowdfunding, but also the inclusion of just the different backers and bears all over the film and in the credits. I saw my friend Tony doing a delicious belly bump at one spot in the film. So I guess the question I've got for you is, as you look towards whatever your next project is, whatever's next on the horizon, which of these techniques might you carry forward with you next time?
Techniques. Well, the crowdfunding is always necessary. But for me, you know, the next thing I'm doing is I'm getting married. That's my next big thing to my partner that I proposed to. That was my last movie.
And congratulations on that, by the way. That was phenomenal.
Congratulations.
I was teared up when I saw that. Like, no lie.
10 years of writing about true love, I finally get to experience that. And so that's kind of my focus right now. But if I thought about what I would do moving forward, all I know that does work is the 2 cameras is a huge deal. As far as technically speaking, that changes the game. And then it depends on what it is. The Bears are a great force, and they're a great community to be able to tap into. A lot of the, like you said, a lot of the people that were in it were part of the fundraising effort, and then you just got this raw talent out of them as well, because they came there, and then some would be like, they'd come there to do you know, an extra work, and then they'd be like, oh, I'll stick around and do this, and I can light a fire after this. And next, you know, we have these crowd of great talented people that are all helping make this dream a reality. So crowdfunding and just crowdsourcing and telling something real is really what helps make that happen.
I liked it that you included, you know, a lot of these backers, because then I get to like not only see a face, but sometimes see most of their body too. Like that really helps.
Yeah.
Jim's like jerking it to the credits.
No, I am not. I am not. No, not the credits.
Not the credits. Yeah,
there was some in there in some of those scenes. I'm like, I got to go back and see that scene again. That guy's really hot.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, I wish I could actually show some of that footage, but you know, there's some wonderful. I mean, you know, we have a lot of people that surround the movie are quite cute, and you know, for me, it's always been about the big hairy bear for me and the older bear. So, you know, I always kind of push that forward because I think they're getting a little underrepresented these days. So I want to make sure that they are always front and center. So, you know, that volleyball scene was like, come on, man, that's my Top Gun with fat hairy dudes.
We totally thought, both of us turned to us and said, yeah, this is fat hairy Top Gun right here.
I tried to get the song. I tried to get the damn song.
Did you? Oh, that'd be...
yeah. No, man, it was too expensive.
That's exactly what my boyfriend did when we were watching it. He sat up on the couch and goes, "Are they doing Top Gun? I think they're doing Top Gun." They are.
We almost
started
out with, like, you know, shot for shot, and then we're like, once we did we were like, all right, let's just do it. Let's have fun.
This is the sequel, Bottom Gun.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was a lot of fun. It was real blast.
It was Top Gun until Geralt turned it into that scene from
no spoilers. The
Fockers or whatever. Yes. Anyway, Doug, I know it's interesting that you brought that up, because we've mentioned this before, that you've always been, you know, done well is promoting these movies, promote body positivity, right? And there's certainly a lot of eye candy in this movie, the bigger, hairier dudes. You even got some really hot ass shots of some guys in this movie. Oh yeah. I think Tim especially, right?
Yes, of
Tim's
course.
like, whoo, that was like, can he fall out of that camper like a few more times, because that was really hot.
He is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, just tell us a little bit about your thought about, like, you know, even pushing the limits even more on, not limits, but, you know, pushing that even more, giving us some more, you know, regular guy and big body realness in your movies.
Because you don't see that super often, right? Like a big guy just popping out, like big furry butt there, like, you know.
No.
Well, and making them the romantic. I mean, ultimately, Tim is the romantic lead at the end of the day, almost. So having a big guy that from Texas, it's like this southern drawled, big hairy man. To even have that be, other than Roseanne, where's that been? So like, and for a gay man, that's that for gay films, that's a huge deal to have those kind of leads. But it's always been important to me because that's how this whole thing kind of got started. It was the basic appreciation of the bigger, hairy, older gentleman, and that was sort of the beginning style of it, the creation of it. What I figured out better was in the beginning, I really wanted to be in your face because it was like the first movie was like right when Queer as Folk was coming out. So like I'm like frame one, fucking Santa Claus immediately. I'm like, okay. That was a little like whoa. I think that's what got it its popularity, in the beginning. But so this time I was able to subtly bring that in, and then throw in, Chris Salvatore from Eating Out, so like, the other guys can be like, wow, look at the hot guy, and then I'm like, okay, and then I bounce back and forth. So. I've always been trying to play both sides of the pool at the Triple R in San Francisco during Lazy Bear, where you have the muscle guys on one side and the big guys on the other, and there's all these people in the middle that kind of mingle. I've always lived in that mingle area because I just believe that this is supposed to be an inclusive community. And if you treat everybody with equal respect, you'll hopefully get that back. Not with everybody, but
Yeah, and you don't always see Santa in a sling.
Hey, speak for yourself, Jim.
We have Santa hats. In any event,
Christmas card coming.
A short film with just you two. Okay, right. That's the next.
We'll send it your way, Doug. So I, just thinking about this, like, and thinking about like my own journey as kind of a big guy growing up. I wish there was something like this like 20 years ago. Now I'm feeling old. Like when I was starting to kind of explore the bear thing and, when I thought, oh man, like fat guys, you're never going to find anybody to love you. Like you're hideous. It's such a positive message. And I think, obviously 18 and up guys probably are starting to find this movie. I know with the second one, we heard from a couple listeners who heard you on the show and they went and checked out the movie and they're like, oh my God, like this is my world. Like these are my people, my tribe. So I think that's awesome, Doug, that you continue to carry that forward.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely get a lot of that. And I get a lot of different things. I either get, this is totally my life, and I get that because it was totally my life as far as I was concerned. I was the Tyler character in love with all this and wondering, how I'm going to explain that to my family kind of thing. And then, because at the time I was more of a thinner person at that point, so I liked big guys, and so it was great to pull that together. And in this movie, that movie was about trying to come out of the closet twice, right? The second one was about the marriage and accepting it, and then this one was more for me tackling the being able to come out of the closet later in life when you've kind of already set the stage for a pack of lies and a closeted experience, and you just don't know how to get out of that. And there's a lot of nobody deals with the mature age gay people who have kind of stuck in the closet and are now just really watching everyone around them having a great life, and they want to have that life, and they don't know how to pull that off without ruining all their friendships and ruining everyone that loves them.
Right.
And they've been liars for the last 20 some odd.
And how it affects the relationship too.
Yeah,
I mean, that was pretty interesting to see portrayed on film. How that that closet can affect a relationship.
And it's a slippery slope that happens and for these people that happened way when there was not this gay liberation that kids today see, that it's everywhere and all over the internet. There was no internet, there was AOL dial-up with belly mail from mail. Like you were sitting there going, what? And so there are a lot that fell into a double life that was hard for them. And so I loved exploring that with Jay, which was his real life, the character of Tim Hooper's life. Yep. And also my producers, Jay, Barry, and Joe, they have the same recollection, and a lot of older men too.
Yep.
And that's something that, I mean, I'm a Texan. I live in this particular state, and while I haven't necessarily been in Jay's shoes himself, I've come along in a time where I feel like a lot of the stigma has been eroded. I've known many Jays in my life. There are so many people who are living this life at some stage of like some part of themselves still in the closet. And so I think that's what one of the things that resonated so well with me with this film. And I think that actually kind of segues to the next thing I really wanted to ask you, Doug. I think there's so many interesting characters here going on so many different journeys. That's one of the things that's very part and parcel to this series. It's not just about this one bear, these two bears. It's really about this community of bears all going through different struggles that overlap and intersect with one another. I think most people watching this would have their favorite characters or favorite scenes and things like that. I want to ask you, is there a particular set of, or is there a particular scene that really stood out to you in terms of just how much you enjoyed like writing it or shooting it? Like, what was your favorite scene to put to film?
Oh, that's so difficult. That's what happened to me at the New York premiere. I want to thank Bobby Miller for saying great comment, by the way. I'm checking out the little live chat as we're going along.
Yeah.
So, that's hard to say. Right now, it's so hard because the first one was 10 years ago, and there's so many, there's so many wonderful things about that I love. And since it was the first, and it was really so cathartic for me to have, the biggest scene for me was that walking around that bar, the original bar that I actually went to, and afraid to walk in kind of thing, and seeing all these big, beautiful men on a bear night. And it really wasn't even bear night because there wasn't really bears at the time I was doing this. It was still kind of just really, it hadn't really started yet. So it was just this grungy bar with fat men in front of it. So, but I turned, and so I'm sitting here in my little Trans Am because of course I'm white trash in Jersey. So I'm like driving around like 10 times and eventually I go in. So that scene means a ton to me. But this last scene at the end of the movie with Tim and we'll leave it, but that ending where that was the culmination of all three movies for me. It's true love.
You mean? Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Right. Like it's like the characters say to, yeah.
He's got choices to make. They both had choices to make, and they chose each other, kind of thing. And that was without being cryptic and not saying exactly what happened.
Don't spoil your own movie, Doug.
Exactly. For me, that was a great ending to the whole experience. For me.
And I have to say, I just love how your movies in these different have these different relationships, but it shows the kind of the everyday struggles that relationships have. Whether it was the pressure on a family that's expecting a child, they're going, outside they're adopting or whatever. And the self-doubts that they have, in each other. I mean, that was really good stuff. I'm glad you explored that in the movie. And it kind of balances out all the other like Top Gun volleyball stuff.
You gotta.
Yeah.
For me, it's got to be something real. Like it takes 4 years. It takes years of my life to make it happen, and a ton of my friends money. So it has to be something that we can all be proud of at the end of the day. But it really has to move people, and really, every film that we've been able to watch, people tear up, laugh, and that means the world to me. To make somebody just totally emote in that way, great, and it's great for all of us to see, and it matters. And then, like I said, I've gotten the suicide notes from kids that were like, I would have committed suicide, but I saw BearCity 2, and I told my mom because that character told his mom, and she helped me out. Like, that's like saving a life is like crazy. Like, that was not what I was expecting. I just thought maybe we'd double our chances of getting a date on a Saturday night if everybody actually went out. But to me, I knew it mattered because I know a lot of kids have thought about, is this, what am I supposed to do? This is, I like big hairy dudes. First of all, I'm gay, and now I like big hairy dudes.
Yeah, it's a double whammy. Right.
Like, it's going to be. So that was exciting for me to be able to save a life.
Well, it's one of the great things about these films. I mean, yes, there's sort of kooky, zany things going on, and we love those. Those are lots of fun, obviously. But something that Bill Zanowitz called out in the live chat. Hey, Bill from Comic Book Bears podcast. He's with us. He says BearCity 3 is a wonderful expression of heart and sentiment, and I think that's true for all three films. Right? There's sort of this undercurrent of that connects it all together, and I think that's even with the crazy zany stuff going on, that's always there. It's always anchored in that, and I think that's so powerful.
Well, Well, it has to be serious. I mean, that's the kind of comedy I'm into. They have to be completely serious about it, and it has to really matter to them, which just makes it funny. So, you know, when things happen and you know, it feels like a real situation, and you're laughing at them and with them.
And it's so much more relatable because of just the number of kind of main supporting characters who have these different angles and different focuses. You know, you've got the people that are going through their first coming out or their second coming out. You're having people dealing with across the franchise with marriage, with you know, having a child. You know, they're at that stage in their relationship. You have people who have dealt with loss, who have dealt with both you know, the eternal loss and also just like breakups and such like that. You know, I think all of us can relate to these different characters in some way, shape, or form at different times in our lives, and maybe even 5-10 years from now, we'll be able to come back and relate to them in different ways as well. And that's part of the magic of the characters that you've put together here. It's not just one character on one journey. It's really the Bear experience as a whole on film.
Yeah, it was definitely three. There were definitely three storylines always weaving, and they always had to get to a point, and then you had to flip them over and give them a whole new arc each film. So that's kind of why you know, in this one, you know, by the end of BearCity 2, Carlos and Michael pretty much had everything they wanted, so there wasn't too much I could do with them except for do what I did.
Right.
Which, you know, it's a third movie, somebody has to die. But then that brought in a whole beautiful new wave. First, beyond getting the African American bears into it, which was very important to me. But
Absolutely.
The bigger part was because that wasn't just a throwaway. It was kind of like I also wanted a kid, and I wanted a child that was a teenager. Because all the other movies, you know, if you see Gaby, and I love Gaby, I love these movies that think about childhood and raising a family and that kind of thing, and they just get you to the end where the baby comes out, and I'm like, dude, that's just the beginning. Like, I'd like to see how gay people parent, and so that was why I decided to have this kind of 16-year-old kid in there who has to, you know, form a relationship with Michael and with his father, with Michael. And I thought that was a great kind of parallel. So there's always parallel paths. They are going on very different journeys.
Indeed. Well, one thing I want to do real quick, Doug, I know we've got you for a limited amount of time, and thank you for sharing it with us. Just to kind of close this out here a little bit, we had posted on Facebook today we were going to be sitting down with you to talk about the film, and a couple people had replied saying, "What? BearCity 3 is out? I totally hadn't heard about that." And I'm like, A, how did you miss that? Because you guys have got a great marketing campaign. But B, for any of our listeners who are maybe in the same boat, Doug, could you maybe talk a little bit about how they can access the film, where they can find it, and if you're going to continue to tour with it at all, maybe where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely. It's BearCity.com. It's nice and easy. You know, BearCity.com is where you can pretty much find the DVD, the Blu-ray. You can find DVDs and Blu-rays and all sorts of merch for all three movies. But then you also have all the links to Vimeo. And right now, as far as we have the DVDs out and the Blu-rays and all that physical media, but then we also have the online stuff, so you can access it worldwide with VHX, Vimeo, and YouTube are the three now. Working on iTunes, they're a little bit harder. They have some more stringent rules, so we're working on it. But, you know, so that should be up in, you know, a month or so. We'll have iTunes ready for the holiday season, as well as a holiday gift pack and a bunch of stuff for that. So for now, BearCity 3 is the place to be. You just go there and or BearCity.com, sorry, is the place to find out and purchase and find whatever you want. Shirts, hats, bags, patches that are super cool.
Those patches are freaking amazing, by the way. We got ours in our Joe package.
Designed them too. Like it was really a lot of fun and
Go well.
And Joe Hammer did a great job of sourcing it. And
man,
it was really good. So yeah, that's exciting. But then you know, we've done the whole tour. We started in San Francisco at the Castro for the opening. You know, we started with the Woods sneak preview, but then we started with the Woods and we ended with the Woods. We started with the Woods, went to San Francisco, ended with New York, and then went back to the Woods. But that was the main tour on theaters. We wanted it to be in theaters. You know, we make films, you know, so we needed to go to the theater to see it. However, it works on a lot of home theaters because people got Rockstar theaters now in their home. But we still continue to enjoy showing it. We'll just probably do some more of the bear runs some more places that we weren't able to get to on the tour while we were moving so quickly. We'll still be able to do that, and you can catch that on BearCity3.com. Goes and tells you exactly where we're going to be next.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, we will definitely, I say we, but really, I mean, Jim, would you include some of those wonderful links?
Absolutely.
In the show notes?
I'll include them all.
And you have to also look at, you guys got to see you got to listen to the commentary. Besides, the behind the scenes is fun too, because we get more Tim Butt in there. Although Tim doesn't know that, he's probably going to kick my head. But a little more Tim Butt in that. And then, but also the behind the scenes commentary was like a freaking thing unto itself. I basically got all the actors back, all the producers, and I basically did it so whenever they're on the screen, that's when they're talking. So it's not just, usually it was just like me and Steven Garino, who's hilarious, obviously, and Greg Gunther being us, and we're all just, the three of us are being stupid for 2 hours. But instead I was like, well, I realized there's so many people that are involved in this, so many new characters. I just wanted to hear from everybody, and it just became an editing nightmare. But I was cool with it. But it's really entertaining. So you get to hear Kathy's the first time Kathy and Jimmy ever did a behind the scenes. So it was a lot of fun, and you get to hear a lot of the tricks and a lot of the stuff that we did, and who was sleeping with who, and of course, not me. I was working, but strictly professional.
Oh, goodness. Well, Doug, we just want to say a great big thank you for joining us on the show this week. We'll definitely get those links in the show notes. Listeners, if you've not yet seen Bear City 3, definitely head over to BearCity.com, rent it, buy it, get your digital media, do all three, whatever strikes your fancy.
Swag.
Yep.
Definitely. Those patches, man. That's where it's at.
Birthday killer. The bag's still good. Doug did a killer job. Doug did a killer job.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Doug, it has been a pleasure. Hopefully we get to run into you. It's been a couple years, so hopefully we get to see you again in person.
I got to come out there to one of your bear events, I remember.
There you go. We've got La Fiesta de los Osos coming up in January. So,
all right. Well, right now I'm going to go to Sydney, and I'm going to go be with my man, and that's kind of all I'm focused on right now.
And maybe you can bring your man back and hit a couple of runs over here. We'll catch you. Yeah.
Well, Doug, congratulations again on the engagement. So stoked for you guys. So happy. And
he is the love of my life, so I'm very excited.
Oh, so wonderful.
Well, we're rooting for you guys, Doug.
Thank you.
All right. Doug, good to see you. Thanks again for joining us. We'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
I love that guy. Can I just make a heart symbol with my hand to demonstrate my love?
Always so much fun talking to him. Like he lights up our virtual room.
Is that so? I know there's the 3 movies. Have we had him on just the 3 times, or did we have him on once in between? Or did he help us review a movie one time or something? I don't remember.
I think this is the 3rd time.
3rd time at least.
First time was Doug and Gerald McCulloch, who plays Roger in the movies. The second time was just Doug himself. And I think, was that talking about Bear City 3 starting up in the Indiegogo campaign?
I think so. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, of course, this time around. And, man, every time Doug has been on the show has been great. We were really lucky after the first time we had him on. Doug invited us to come to P-Town because it was right after the second movie. And so we got to hang out with him for a weekend in P-Town with some of the guys. And that was awesome. Doug is just such a crazy, amazing, special individual. So very blessed to have him with us, and excited that Bear City 3 is finally out. You guys are able to access it, see it. Hope you enjoy our cameo as much as we did. There you go, Will. Will's holding up.
This is called product placement? Yeah, that's...
yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Totally do it. But yeah, we've got some people in the chat. Bobby says, I need to see the first 2 movies. Bobby, definitely. As great as the 3rd film is, I mean, it's really like the 3rd part of this trilogy, right? So I definitely recommend you see the first couple of films.
Get to know the characters, throughout the trilogy, because like Doug was saying, there's some really great character arcs in there, and some twisty kind of character arcs. it's a lot of fun to see these characters and couples and whatnot back again.
And not only that, but like Doug was talking about sort of the crowdsourcing, right? And Will, you mentioned seeing Tony, who we also love, doing the belly bump thing. It was just so much fun watching the credits and seeing so many of our like friends and like people who are really dear to us. Like our really good friends, Brian and Ron from LA. We saw them in there and it was like, oh, we love them. And then you see all these other people who you like want to get to know, but you don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, you got a pretty picture in the credits.
I'm gonna search that name on Facebook.
Well, we already know Jim's got the internet stalker thing down from our Bear of the Month days.
There you go.
But no, you're absolutely right. Like we watched the credits and we were like pausing and like looking at the names. And a couple of times, like I would like take a picture of someone's like name and be like, I see you there. Look, and we were just like having these little fun things back and forth. So there's something exciting about that because these films really are about community, and the bear community is one that doesn't get a lot of attention in media outside of like kind of a throwaway joke on a sitcom here or there. You know, we're at the point where I think there's enough recognition where like people know what a bear is, but where, you know, it's more just like a silly punchline joke than it is like a fleshed out character. And we got to see that here. So
definitely
cool stuff.
Yeah, it was good to see.
Indeed. Speaking of good to see, I didn't get to mention this to Doug on the show, but we were very pleasantly surprised. There's this picture from our wedding day of Jim and I, sort of like forehead to forehead with like
saw that.
Lays. And I guess Doug included that in the credits, and we saw that, and it was like tears.
I know, it was a total surprise for me. I didn't know that that picture would even be in time to make any kind of, you know, make it into the final product. So that was interesting. Yeah. And then, you know, just like you said, seeing all those friends and like, hey, that guy looks familiar. Do we know that guy? And then you know,
yeah. Wait, did I see him on Tumblr or at a bear event? Which was it? Why not both? You know, in any event, yeah, it's so great that the community also comes together to you know, to help make these movies possible. And Doug just mentioned in the live chat, he's still hanging out. Awesome. That both BearCity and BearCity 2 are available for streaming at BearCity.com as well. So if you're listening, you haven't seen any of these movies yet, guess what? Really easy for you to go check out the first two, catch up, and then get the third one. But guys, oh my goodness, we still have a whole nother movie to talk about.
We do.
Yep, we've got
another movie, another thing to talk about.
I don't know how this movie maybe relates or compares to BearCity 3, but we're going to talk about it.
That's a stretch.
I'm going to have. So there are some weeks where it's like when because I do the show art, and like there's times where it's just like these two films that we're talking about like are perfectly in sync and knock out like whatever the art is in a few minutes. Oh boy, this one, this combination of films, like I'm gonna have to put on my thinking cap.
Well, man, one of the characters in this movie resembled a daddy bear.
Okay, I feel like there's a.
Really?
I think so a little bit, didn't he?
Well, I mean, we had Anthony LaPaglia in this, so yeah, he counts.
I guess.
But again, like this is very flimsy territory for me to like merge.
It's a stretch.
Like yeah, so.
Well, because last time Doug was on, I think we were reviewing Ted 2, and that was so easy because it's like Ted's a teddy bear, right?
It's a bear, yeah.
Boom, connection. Now it's like, are we going to juxtapose Doug with like a creepy doll? Like,
wait a minute.
Maybe here's what we do. Why don't we take like the cover art for BearCity 3 and just put like Annabelle in a chair in the corner?
So that's actually my thought is like see if I can get her like being held by one of the cast members. But I do like that we have this theme now, like BearCity and sentient toys. Like
Right.
Like Ted and Annabelle. So, that's just something to keep in mind for future Doug appearances. Like if there's going to be like another, talking creepy doll movie, we got to get Doug back.
Well, JP in the chat says you guys sound really excited to talk about Annabelle. And yes, we are going to be talking about Annabelle Creation here in just moments. But a quick reminder, even though Doug has departed from the hangout with us, our drawing is still going to take place. So if you're still hanging out with us, you haven't dropped your comment or whatever in the live chat yet, you can still win your free copy of BearCity 3 just by commenting in the chat. Say hi, tell us what you think about Annabelle. You can say other things if you like. They can be sexual in nature. The comments disappear after the episode, so that would be okay, maybe, as long as you're not
just get something in there, and you might have a copy of BearCity 3 coming your way.
That's right. Just stick it in, and we may put out a copy of BearCity 3 to you.
Nice, great, graceful. Yeah, nailed it.
In any event, if you're new to the show, we are going to talk about Annabelle Creation, spoiler-free for probably 10 minutes. I don't expect we have a lot of non-spoiler discussion, but we'll give you a fair warning before we open up the can of spoiler worms. So if you're on the fence about Annabelle Creation, and our opinion might be helpful to you as to whether or not to see it, feel free to hang out with us after the jump. Jim's going to insert the trailer for us because, Jim, you're amazing. We love you so much for all of the wonderful editing that you do. So.
I trailer you too.
All right, then here we go. Our discussion of Annabelle Creation. All right, so Will, give us a brief setup of this movie and your initial thoughts. Is it worth checking out in theaters, maybe renting, skipping? What do you think here?
So Annabelle Creation is it's actually the fourth movie in the Conjuring verse. We had the Conjuring movies. We had Annabelle, which was a prequel to The Conjuring, and now we have Annabelle Creation, which is a prequel to that prequel. Don't bother building a timeline for these movies. It doesn't matter. The basic plot is this. So 12 years after the tragic death of this little girl, the guy who made the doll and his wife end up inviting this nun and this group of girls from an orphanage which has recently closed its doors. And so he's invited this nun and these girls into the house, and slowly but surely they start to realize that there might be something sinister about that doll, Annabelle. So I think the place to start with this is, and I know you shouldn't overly compare movies, but this is a prequel. I'm going to do it anyways. I hated the first Annabelle movie. I thought it was just a really poorly made movie that really leaned extremely heavily on fake jump scares and kind of false tension. It's not the type of horror movie that I line up and get excited about seeing, but I gave this one a fair shake because I felt the same way about the Ouija movie, and then I was sort of surprised with how decent the Ouija prequel ended up being, comparatively. I will say that Annabelle Creation is a better film than Annabelle, but I don't think that it's still one that I would encourage people to go out and see. This is an improvement, but it's not like it wasn't as good as the Ouija prequel was. We have some child actors who I think do a relatively decent job of what they're supposed to do. I think the film has a good deal of tension that's built into it. And I think a lot of that is believable because you sort of get to like these characters. I feel like, to me, I ended up liking this film a little bit less as the runtime went on, though, just because my ability to sort of suspend disbelief and sort of be on board with what these characters were going through and some of their motivations just eroded as the film went on. But I think this is a completely watchable movie. And I don't know if that's necessarily a ringing recommendation, so please don't take it as one. It's a very watchable horror movie, but again, it's not one that excites me, and I don't think it's one that will excite a lot of people. But it's a step in the right direction. That's something.
Yeah. Will, I can kind of agree with you, I think, on this one. But Brad, I think you're up next. I think I jumped the gun. I think I jumped the gun.
If you want to express your agreement, you follow your bliss, sweetheart. Go for it. Please do.
Man. Sorry about that. Hey,
you're fine.
So, yeah, I mean, Will, I think this was it's not a terribly made movie. In fact, it's probably, it's a well-made movie. I think the production values are there. The shots are well done for a moody, horror movie like this. But overall, this was really kind of a rough one for me. I was very neutral on the first movie. I did like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, though, pretty well. These are part of the same universe; they're connected. And now I'm wondering if the Ouija universe is connected, because it's got the same young actress playing in this movie as in the Ouija sequel. So I'm like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be like connected in a way? But they're in totally different time. I think they're in different time periods. Both of them are in the past. Both of them are in the past, but this one's a little further in the past. I think I overexpected for this movie, thinking that this would improve in not just in cinematic ways, which this one did, but in storytelling ways. And for me, it did not. It's a very standard jump scare kind of horror movie with a creepy doll that, well, some people might find it creepy. It's got that ventriloquist dummy looking doll thing going for it, which a lot of people find creepy. And then, but here's the deal: for people who want like the usual like dark, creepy house, creepy doll, and maybe a couple of handfuls of what I thought were over telegraphed jump scares, this might hit the spot as like a summer popcorn or date movie. Still, I'm not going to recommend you spend your money on it. I would wait probably until around Halloween time when this thing comes out on Redbox, and you can go rent it or rent it on VOD somewhere and watch it with some friends sitting around on Halloween night while the kids ring the doorbell or something. It's a pass for me. There's just a lot of things that we've seen before. There's nothing, and this is a, this sounds cliche at this point, but there's nothing new in this movie. We've seen it all before, and this movie tries so hard, I think, to try to scare you and do unexpected things. The thing in this movie, the doll, is, there's other forms, let's just say, in this movie that to be scared about, and this movie can't decide on which one it wants to scare you with, so it just tries to scare you with everything, and that's, to me, a sign of that it's trying too hard. It's out of fresh ideas. I found myself kind of bored with this movie, to be honest. If it weren't for the fact, and Brad will talk about this some more, I think, if it weren't for the fact that we saw it on a Friday night at a local Cineplex, which was, it's opening night, and it was pretty crowded. It was pretty sold out. And the audience reactions were fun. I think I could have totally taken a nap with this movie. So it's a pass. Brad, what did you think?
Oh, goodness. I would say that for me, this is probably an in-theater pass. I agree. I think this one might be a fun one to watch around Halloween time, or, if you're at home on your couch and you're in the mood for something scary, this might be, this might be something that like is your fourth or fifth like Netflix choice or something, right? You're like, yeah, let's pull up the scary movies. This is not a great movie, and it's unfortunate because I love The Conjuring. Although Annabelle was my least favorite part of The Conjuring. So the fact that, the Annabelle stuff is the spinoff here makes it a little less interesting for me. But I was a big fan of the first couple of Chucky movies. And I also liked some of the old Puppet Master movies back from the 70s and 80s. So demonic toys coming to life, I'm on board with. I just think that, you know, like you guys both already said already, it just doesn't really do anything new here. Certainly there's this element of like demonic presence and how do you contain a demon in a doll, and you know, do crosses work, do rosaries work, you know. Poor man's Rosario Dawson is like a nun in this movie, and like she's trying to corral these girls while like battling with this supernatural force going on, and it just ends up feeling like a big mishmash of like all the cliches that are already badly mishmashed from other movies. And they just sort of, it's like they get thrown into a pot, stirred up a little bit, and then like thrown on the wall to see sort of what sticks. It does a good job in some places of ratcheting up some of the tension. Some of the jump scares were not expected, which I didn't expect. So that was kind of interesting. But the power of this movie for me, Jim, you nailed it, wasn't in the movie itself. It was the crowd reactions to this movie that made this so fun. And this is why I typically go to see horror movies at the theater rather than just watching them at home. A, because I don't like to be scared of creepy things in my own house, because I do get scared easily sometimes by these kinds of things. I'm still convinced there's someone living in our attic, babe, that's going to come down and like kill us in the middle of the night.
Oh, I got a story for you.
Hi, Brad.
Maybe you shouldn't tell that story, Jim. I don't know. You can tell me if you want, but B, I like to see it with a bunch of other people, and this was awesome because we were in a packed theater. It's one of those new like Cinemark luxury lounger theaters, so it's all reserved seating, so you can like buy online. You show up 2 minutes before the show. So we're there like 10 minutes before the movie starts, and there's barely anyone in the theater. And I'm like, oh, crap, really? Like I came to see this movie in the theater because I was hoping for fan reactions. But then sure enough, everyone starts coming in like a minute before the trailer starts,
Yeah.
during the trailer.
Or 2 minutes after.
Or 2 minutes after. And like the place filled up. So we're watching the movie, and like, Jim, you can talk about your guy if you want to, but the girl sitting next to me, and I always get a buffer seat because like I'm a big guy, I got big shoulders, plus I want room for like my popcorn and my drink and all that stuff, so I buy an extra seat. So she's like on the other side of the seat next to me. Man, I don't know if this is the first horror movie she's ever been to. I don't know, but she was flipping the fuck out. Like characters would be walking down a dark hallway and she's like, fuck my life, no, don't go down there, fuck my life. Like she knows it's coming, and then like jump scares are happening. She's like ripping her purse off her chair and like sticking her head in her purse. You know, she's like rocking back and forth. At one point she had to like get up and leave, she got so freaked out. And then there's other people behind us that are just like, you know, like I had popcorn like literally hit my head because some woman behind us like threw her popcorn like way up in the air. Wow. So it's like you start seeing the audience reactions just sort of pop off all around you. And then my favorite part, and this maybe sounds weird, but it's the like unintentional, like anxiety killing laughter, like people laughing at inappropriate moments almost to like ease their own fear in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, you know, someone gets hurt. There's like this big sort of gory thing happening and people are laughing, and they're not laughing necessarily because it's funny, but more like they have to laugh or they're going to just like get totally freaked out. So it's a fascinating experience.
I wish I had that experience because I saw it in a relatively empty theater. I think there were like 15 of us total, and it was like, I mean, save for the movie itself, like you could hear a pin drop in there. And I do enjoy, like, same thing with a comedy movie, a good horror, a good comedy movie, like when it really connects and the audience is feeling it, like it amps up the experience. So for me, instead, like the thing that I was able to get more juiced about, like my favorite part of it was I saw it at my local chain, Alamo Drafthouse, love it so much. And they do the pre-reel beforehand, and Brad, you mentioned like Chucky, you know, being a favorite of yours. The pre-reel was nothing but like Good Guy doll commercials and clips from like Puppet Master or Dolls or just all of these different movies. And it's in one way, it's like, oh man, this is getting me ready to go. On the other hand, it's sort of like, oh man, I wish I was watching any of these.
Those are so much better
right now. So I guess that's a double-edged sword. One of the things, and JP in chat mentions this. So this was directed by a guy named David Sandberg. He's the same guy that gave us the Lights Out short film and feature film, which we reviewed here. And I think this film suffers from some of the same problems maybe as Lights Out, in that I think that he is really great at the setup. He's not as great at the it's sort of the execution. In other words, like he's great at the foreplay, terrible with the climax. And that's Annabelle. I loved I would say I loved the first 30 minutes of this movie. Like, I loved the establishment of these characters. I loved their exploration of their space. I think the physical location, the house and the barn and or the workshop, all the different places. Like, whenever someone was in a room, I had a really good understanding of where that character was at in relationship to the rest of the house and the other characters. And I think that's a positive. But once we have to start paying off all this tension, it just fell off for me. Side note, Brad, I'm going to go watch this later on tonight. I was just looking at, like, while we were talking here, what else this director has done. And interestingly enough, he did a short film called Attic Panic, about a woman who's trapped in an attic and there's something else up there. So maybe, so maybe this guy is just making like maybe it's a documentary about what's happening above you right now.
Oh God.
Instead of 47 meters down, it's 4.5 feet up.
Yeah. It's like, I always tell Scott about my boyfriend Scott, kind of one of my running jokes with him is that there is a contortionist cannibal who lives in our attic. So we've named him, his name is Bob. And he's pretty cool. He doesn't come down and eat, faces too much, but I always remind him on his birthday, like, hey, he's going to come get you tonight. And he thanks me for that. So maybe you have a Bob of your own.
Maybe. Well, it sounds like this isn't like a movie that we really think you should like rush out and see in theaters at this point, right?
I would say no.
Yeah.
No.
Unless you caught it on that opening night or opening weekend when you have a crowded theater, that may be the only. I would say that might be worth it to kind of get that little elevation that you get from the crowd that kind of doesn't really make the movie any better, but it makes the experience better.
That's a great point. The time frame when we would recommend this movie to anyone you've already passed that window. Like, it is no longer like you're not going to get that packed theater again going into weekend too. So yeah, at this point, if you haven't seen it yet, this is a renter.
All right. Well, guys, do we want to get to some spoilers for a little while at least? Not necessarily. Yeah. All right. A little bit. Un poquito. Okay. So spoilers for Annabelle Creation are incoming. If you value your virginal innocence about this creepy doll movie, now's your time to step away. Come back in 10 minutes for some pluggage. But we're going to go ahead and open the can of spoiler worms. Where do you guys want to start with this one?
I want to start with and I wasn't comparing this movie to these other movies, but this movie borrows many ideas from other movies. There was kind of the smoke like tendril demon thing from, was it Mama? A movie called Mama.
The Del Toro movie, yeah.
Yeah. From that, it had the well from The Ring. Definitely featured in this movie. And, it had a scarecrow in this movie, which I know I've seen. And I mean, it was kind of and you're right, Brad, it had kind of, what was it, Nightcrawler from the X-Men movies at one point.
I'm like, are you kidding? Is he going to start teleporting around?
The demon crouching in a corner movie. But I don't know. Like I said, it didn't offer much new. And every time it tried to do all these different things. And as soon as I saw the scarecrow, I'm like, oh God, come on, really? Like, and then of course, the scarecrow is going to come back later, and it did. But yeah, basically they described the same thing we knew when this movie started, because we've seen it in the other movies, is that the doll itself is not really a demon or a monster, but it's it's a totem or a portal for maleficent creatures and demons to haunt the here and now, and that's pretty much all we got from this movie in terms of story wise.
I think the thing that really threw me off and made me come down pretty harsh on this movie was this film set up a lot of scenes designed to scare / torment us that didn't pay off. And I know this is going to sound a little weird, but go with me on this. There are a lot of scenes where some of the extra girls, like there's like these 4 girls who are just sort of also there, and they're fine. There's nothing against the actresses. They did a fine job. But there are spots where something will come after them and then nothing will happen. And then later on, they'll just be kind of mostly cool with it. And then later on in the film, something will come after them. And then everything will be fine, and they'll just move on. And I always felt like all of those scenes were just designed because, like, well, we need there to be more tension. We need there to be more scares. We have to have more scares. You know, some accountant's sitting there going, you know, we haven't fit our scare quota for Act 2 yet, so let's have something underneath the sheet. Like, you could have cut those 4 girls out entirely.
Right.
And cut out the scarecrow, cut out just any of the scares that involved those girls, and you would have had fundamentally the exact same film with, like, their stories did not impact the 2 main girls or the main nun or in any way that was at all tangible or interesting. So this film needed to be tighter, and it needed to kind of play off of the I think it needed to play off of the lore that it was building a little bit more, instead of just like doing these like kind of goofy jokes. Because by the time things do go kind of turn sideways at the end, it doesn't feel earned. It just feels like at that point they're like, oh shit, we've been teasing this thing. Oh, let's say it's her. Now she's bad. It was very disappointing.
Did we ever learn in this movie like why this demon is coming back to this? You know, is doing the things that it's usually. I mean, it's sometimes it's helpful to know, like, all right, this isn't just random bad shit is going to happen from a dark corner, but like a demon is truly tormented and like needs to like cause pain or needs to take souls, I guess, somewhere for some reason. I was totally confused on okay, what did we get out of this in terms of the motivation for this demon?
I don't know that we have a ton. It's sort of like generic demonic force. We know obviously that Annabelle the girl dies, and apparently demons like to capitalize on people's grief, right? They pretend to be the spirit of the loved one, whatever. And this particular demon got permission from the parents to move into the doll. I'm sorry. I've lost people in my life, but like if I was getting like ghosties from the other side and they're like, hey, can I move into this like doll in your house? Even if I want to see them again, I'm probably not going to be like, sure, go ahead and inhabit this like super creepy doll.
I at least get it from the standpoint of, I mean, I think within the film's lore, like I understood their decision. Like, you know, despite the loss that I've had in my life, one thing I haven't lost is a young child. Like, and I think that is a very specific type of loss. And I imagine there are a lot of parents who, you know, could who've had that type of loss, who could understand, even if, you know, it's obviously a fictionalized story and it's obviously kind of, you know, cuckoo bananas when you really say it out loud. But I think to me, the part that, yes, so we got this establishment about like what the demon is doing, and kind of why it's doing it. It's making its deal. What I didn't get, the motivation that I thought felt super flimsy to me, even if we accept all of that. If you're the type of parent who has lost a child, and you've brought this, you know, you've made this deal with, you know, a devil to get it back, and instead of it being the child, it ends up being this demon that inhabits this doll, and you have to do all of these things. I don't know that I would then invite a bunch of children to live in my house at that point, even if it's been called. Like, that's the thing. Like, and they said their motivation, like, you know, we felt like we had to make up for it.
It was our penance.
It was our penance. Like, they said that, but that felt flimsy as hell to me. Like, you know, like did they have a discussion beforehand? Like, you know, this will make up for all the wrong we've done. Also, we might be murdering these children, but this will lighten our spiritual load. That was such a problem for me, and I felt like they just glossed over it. Like when they were doing the script revision, someone said, "Hey, we should include a line about that." Penciled in really quick. All right, let's go. Like that was just really weak for me.
I did like, now that I think back on it, and JP in the chat helped me figure this out. I do remember that after the daughter died, they were so heartbroken, they made the deal with the devil that their daughter would actually come back, but she came back as kind of like an apparition, right? Her spirit, didn't her spirit kind of inhabit the house? Didn't the mother see her at different points?
It was the demon. I think it was the demon the whole time pretending to be the little girl.
It was the demon the whole time pretending to be the whole girl, but the parents made the deal because they thought it was their daughter. Right. You know, they thought like this was legit.
And I love that idea. I mean, you have these parents that are so distraught and that emotional. And I would have liked to see more of that, like them trying to make a connection with the daughter, or the demon acting as the daughter and then having it go bad. It just seemed to jump from those flashbacks to, oh my God, now bad things are happening to these girls that we randomly invited into our house from the orphanage. You know?
And what was the demon's end game like at the end? Like, we know that because of that really shitty, terrible scene where he goes, "I want your soul," that he wants souls. I hated that scene, by the way. Like, that was like the most cliche thing I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Right.
But we know that he wanted some sort of soul that he could attach himself to and kind of enact evil upon the world. That's where we saw the stinger at the end, which was the beginning of the Annabelle movie. And kind of, you know, we've heard about that from the Warrens in the Conjuring movies.
Right.
I get all of that. What I don't get about the demon's motivation is, once he did that and he's doing the evil stuff through her, like chasing around this one with the knife, why was he animating the scarecrow just enough to scare the girls and then stopping, and then going over here and having the severed torso of the mother follow the girl just enough and then stop? Like, I felt like this demon was fucking with everyone, and for no good reason. Like, it wasn't like he was getting any joy or he was scaring people because the script said we needed to scare more people for longer. So again, like, it comes down to a script writing issue at that point.
How many souls did the demon get? Just the mother?
So the mother, the two parents,
Mom and dad.
then the girl that I forget the actress's name, but the girl that she gets.
The older girl?
Janice, yeah. So really just Janice and the two the Mullins. That was it.
She got the disabled girl? He got the
Well, yeah, because if you remember, like, he had possessed her body and was using her to like slash people up and stuff, and then stayed inside of her body. Like, she's gone at this point. By the end of the movie, that Janice is gone, and that demon is living inside the body, now calling herself Annabelle while she's been adopted by that other family for 12
Janice,
years.
by the way, was the most interesting character in the movie up to that point, by far.
Yeah. Although I do have a question, and I don't know how demonology works. Maybe if you have background, somebody out there, maybe you can tell us. But like, did the demons still have like full control of her as Janice when she goes away? Because in the first Annabelle movie, the doll is still possessed by that demon who leaves little notes, just like Annabelle did. So I'm trying to figure out if, like, because I thought Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren had said that the doll is like an anchor for that demon. Wherever the doll goes, the demon stays put, and that's why they have it in like this glass case that's like all blessed and everything, and it contains the evil. So when Annabelle, as an older young woman, is part of this cult in the first Annabelle movie, is that the demon acting through her, or is she just like fucked up and part of this demonic cult as a result of what happened to her?
She has to have been. I mean, because think about the amount of, and this is where I could kind of make the case for this being a bit of a plot hole. If it was the doll's corrupting influence,
she wasn't very
connecting
demon-y.
to the years. No, well, I mean, I'm gonna say the other way around. Like, I think that by the time that we see her being adopted, and it says like 12 years later, or however many years that was, I think it was 12. She identifies herself as Annabelle, so her identity as Janice is gone when she's basically right after the events of this movie. Her identity as Janice is gone, and she is now Annabelle. That's what she's calling herself. So yeah, the doll is probably still corrupting her, but I would make the case that that demon has already got his claws in very deep. And I think you're right. Like, we did hear that, like, you know, leaving notes and, like, you know, sort of corrupting over time. I feel like this sort of steps on the toes of the lore of the first movie a bit. Not that it matters, but if I'm nitpicking, I'm going to pick that nit.
Oh, goodness.
If I ever go back and watch the first one, which I won't.
If you ever do, call me first so I can remind you to watch anything else instead.
Okay. Well, you've seen it before, Jim, so it's, you know.
And it's so memorable. It's like right there.
I know. All right. Well, guys, let's go ahead and move to wrap things up with some quick plugs. I want to plug two things tonight. One, I had this last week and I totally forgot to do it. Check it out. This is the new Marvel Legends, like, Mjolnir with, like, thunder and lightning sound effects. You move it. That's awesome, right? It's pretty cool. This thing is plastic. It's super heavy, but, like, it's freaking awesome. So it's my favorite, like, desk ornamentation. And then the second plug I want to make is it's actually for a TV related thing. So the new reboot of Ducktales recently came out. It aired yesterday, and David Tennant plays Scrooge McDuck, who's one of my all-time favorite cartoon characters. And I gotta tell you, as much as I love David Tennant from Doctor Who, I was a little worried going into the show that he was going to be playing Scrooge McDuck. I know he's got the Scottish accent thing down, but I was kind of like, we'll see. But I got to say, I absolutely loved this, like, first episode that came out. It's actually 2 episodes in one. They've modernized it in some really smart ways. One of my favorite things, and Will, I know you grew up with DuckTales, as did I, because we're kind of from that same age demographic. Huey, Dewey, and Louie just always seemed to be, like, the same character to me. They didn't really have a lot of differentiation between them and their personalities. And, like, seriously, Huey, Dewey, and Louie have more individualized personality after 2 episodes of this new DuckTales than they had, I feel like, through the whole, you know, multi-year run of the original show. So I'm really excited to see where this show goes. Will, I think you had mentioned on Facebook you've seen it. Was this a win for you at all, or a stinker?
Oh, it was a grand slam. I think that it's very easy to make an awful remake. We see those all of the time. In this case, I feel like they nailed it. Like, they did something both new in art style and kind of character differentiation and some of the choices they made, while also understanding kind of the core of what made those characters work so well, made that story work so much as kind of an action adventure, kind of fun romp that we grew up with. So yeah, this is a remake that understands where it's coming from, but does something new. It's great. I loved it.
Awesome. Well, glad I'm not alone. I know Steve in the chat with us was watching it earlier as well. He says, don't forget, turn on closed captioning whenever Uncle Donald is on the screen. Yeah, I've always had issues understanding Donald Duck. It's part of his character.
It's got to be one of those things that, like, if you listen to it for a little while, you kind of get into the groove and pick it up. But while you were watching part of the first episode, I was in the kitchen, like, working on stuff, and I'm like, I'm hearing him talk, but I could pick out maybe every 7th or 8th word, and I'm like, how the hell is he picking this up? Because I can't understand what the hell Donald is saying.
Yeah, definitely that closed captioning helps. So, in any event, Jim, I think you mentioned you didn't have a plug this week. That's okay. So we're going to make your plug nutty by nature. That's what happens when you don't have a plug, Jim. So Jim is officially endorsing.
Is that the new squirrel movie?
That's The Nut Job 2, which is not what I just posted to my Tumblr. It's a movie that's in theaters now.
Just kidding, Jim, of course. But Will, what have you got this week?
Two, but one of them is just pointing you guys in a direction. I've got a review that's going to be going up on our website, a written review for a documentary called Step. So keep an eye out for that this coming Friday. And the movie that's in theaters right now that I want to point you towards is something called Brigsby Bear, which is this movie that is like, ever so often a movie comes out where it's like right up my alley in terms of just like style, structure, and I know that it's hard to recommend to everyone because this is a quirky indie comedy, and quirky indie comedies don't go over with everybody, and that's okay. But this is about this dude who is played by Kyle Mooney from Saturday Night Live. He's grown up watching The Adventures of Brigsby Bear, which is this like kids TV show. And he watches it every week. He has the t-shirts and he has posters and everything on his wall. But one day, because of circumstances I won't go into, the show ends. He can't get any new episodes. And so he sets off on this kind of journey of self-discovery to sort of finish the story and make a film of his own. It made me want to like make a movie. That's part of the excitement here as a movie fan. It made me want to get a camera and start filming stuff. It made me just appreciate Mark Hamill, who's in this as a character actor and as a dramatic actor, and it made me just appreciate the fact that this is created by the Lonely Island guys who have done a lot of things on Saturday Night Live and some movies and stuff. Just makes me appreciate just how well they're able to blend like weird and characterization. So not a movie for everyone, but if you kind of like those things that I just mentioned, check out Brigsby Bear. It's on a limited run right now.
Definitely one that's been on my radar, Will, for a while, and I'm a little jealous that you get to see these things like a few weeks before we do, but I'll definitely be catching up with it, and we'll talk.
We will.
All right. Awesome. Well, it has been a super stuffed episode. One more giant big thank you to Doug Langway, writer, director of the BearCity films, for joining us to talk about BearCity 3. If you have not yet seen the earlier films, just a reminder, you can stream them at BearCity.com. And of course, BearCity 3 is available at the same website on DVD, Blu-ray, rental, YouTube, Vimeo, all that good stuff. You can find it. We didn't really recommend Annabelle Creation so much, so I don't know that anyone's going to rush out and check that out. But in any event, we have reached that point in the summer where it is not great for movies. Unfortunately, we're entering that wasteland now that we're going to be in for a little while until we get to Oscar season this fall. So there's a couple things that are coming out, but guys, we'll have to game plan for next week, see what we want to do. Maybe catch up on some films that we haven't been able to get to yet. We'll talk about it. But last thing before we go, Jim, where can folks interact with you online?
You can mainly find me on Twitter at JJP Out West. All one word, JJP Out West. Chat me up there, send me a direct message, tweet me, at me, whatever. Find me on Twitter.
All right. And Will, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Whatever Cove. You can find me on Facebook. My name is William Lindis, so it would serve you well to search for me by that name. Letterboxd, same name. I talk about movies on there all the time. And hey, one other way to get in touch with me, just go to your local your gas station men's room. Yeah, go to your local gas station men's room, and the first number that's written on the wall, probably mine. Hit your boy up.
Oh, goodness. Oh, boy. And you can find me on Twitter at iBradPro, as well as on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I'm the one that probably has Bear/Chub friends in common with you. So feel free to add me. Do me a favor, though. Just send me a message. Let me know you're from the podcast, so I know you're not one of those crazy like robots. Which, by the way, those robot people are getting smart, you guys, because they're starting to message me from like fake bear profiles as opposed to like fake college girls with perfect teeth.
Oh,
so
boy.
they're up in their game. They really are. In any event, we will see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.